today we're going to be doing a drawing tutorial. You will be drawing from a primary source, which in this case will be an apple, and so it will be a natural form drawing. I'm going to be teaching you the method of shading correctly and looking at highlights and the value of shading. And we will also be looking at tone, and I will be showing you how to use hatching within your drawings. Hope you enjoy. So for this drawing task, all you need are pencils, so make sure that you've got a 2B, a 4B and a 6B, a apple to draw from, a rubber to add your highlights, a sharpener to make sure that obviously your pencils are sharpened, because the last thing you want is a blunt pencil. And lastly, if you haven't got a blending stump, you can use cotton buds to do the blending at the end, which work just as well. Firstly, I'd like you to draw a long rectangle at the top of your page and divide it into 7 squares like I have. I want you to fill the squares from going left to right, starting with the darkest value, so the darkest shade you can possibly make, and making your way all the way to the last square to the right hand side, showing the lightest shading as possible. So this just basically controls the pressure of your hand. So it's having a good pressure control when shading. That is the whole key to showing the shading values. So from going from dark all the way to the light, so it just shows you the different shading that you can achieve by having good pressure control. Place your apple in front of you at arm's length or where you're happy with the positioning. I want you to focus on where the light is hitting the apple so that you can see the light and the dark areas. Start off by using your 2B pencil. I want you to begin to sketch a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle, but just make it as large as you want it and make sure that it's in proportion. Don't make it too small and don't make it too big, and most importantly, make sure it's in the centre of your page. I then started to make a mark indicating the furthest point of the cast shadow, the cast shadow being the shadow that I can see on the table. So I did a faint line, as you can see, at the bottom of the circle, and then I lightly drew an oval shape to indicate the shadow on the table. You'll notice that the oval cuts through the actual shape of the apple a bit. That's fine, it's just a guideline, it's there to help you. After doing that, I used a darker line around the apple to add slight angles to the circle to make it look more apple-like. I then drew the shape of the stalk and the shape of the highlighted areas where the light's hitting the apple, just as a faint guideline, but I added enough depth to the actual stalk of the apple to make sure that it stood out. I then lightly drew the shadow line across the apple, as it's got a slight curve to it. So as you can see, I have done a curve on the actual apple, and within that apple it basically indicates the band from where the shadow falls within the apple. So that part will be the darkest area of the apple, and I will be shading this using the hatching method. As you can see, the hatching method is when the pencil is going in one direction, as you can see on the example of me actually doing it. After doing that, I used a 4B or a 6B pencil shade across the bottom half of the apple, so we're just focusing on the bottom half of it, along with the oval cast shadow. Again, we are doing the hatching in the cast shadow again in one direction. So the further the cast shadow is from the apple, the lighter it will be. So just remember that. So the closer the oval is to the apple, you want to be doing darker shade on it. And as it stretches away, it will go lighter to kind of indicate where the light is hitting the apple. So you'll add more shading to parts of the apple that are hidden in the shadow, such as near the bottom, as you can see. I then picked up a light value, so a light value meaning a light shade. So that was when I decided to pick up the 2B. And I created the light shading for the top of my apple. So again, I done hatching at the top with a 2B pencil indicating the lighter shade. Again, I focused on the pressure control, so I'm not adding too much pressure on it, making sure that it's flowing and it all starts blending in. You will be able to see the definition with the dark shade in the middle and then the lighter shade at the top. What we now want to do is we want to blend it together. So this is the point where you can start using all your different pencils. So your 2B, your 4B, your 6B, you just want it all to get in together and for it to look well defined and not look as though it's not flowing. So by this point you should have blended your different values together. So adding your mid-tones together, so your 2B, 4B, 6B to make the apple look more defined. So by doing that, it makes the apple appear rounder and more realistic. What you can also do is, if you've got a blending stump, or if you haven't got a blending stump, you can use a cotton bud, which is what I used, and you can blend all the different shades together to make the shades actually flow, and this will give it more of a realistic look. You can also add shade in the opposite direction for areas that you want darker, so your apple looks more realistic. So you'll see that I did cross hatching in some of the areas where there was a lot of shade. So cross hatching basically means that you are doing pencil marks in both directions. So with hatching, I was just doing it in one direction. With cross hatching, you will do it in two directions to basically create a cross effect. And then you will see the magic happen. What you can also then do at the end, as you will see what I have done, I basically used a rubber to indicate the highlights, so where the light is hitting the top of the apple. By doing this, it just brings the whole drawing to life. Once you are finished and happy with your piece, just rub away any marks around your drawing, sign your work and just admire what you've done. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial.